Okay, so get this. We're going deep on loneliness today.
Loneliness.
Yeah, loneliness.
Huh, interesting.
Going to be a fascinating deep dive into this LPots podcast episode called What If Loneliness is Actually Good for You?
What if loneliness is actually good for you?
Yeah, part 2 of episode 50.
Mm-hmm.
They really turn the idea of loneliness on its head.
Sounds like a good one. So, are we saying loneliness is like a good thing?
Well, not exactly.
Okay.
The LPot community folks, they suggest that maybe there's more to loneliness than just, the bad stuff.
Oh, I see. So there's like a flip side.
Yeah, they think it might actually help us grow.
Okay, so loneliness isn't always a bad thing. More like it's not always bad.
Right, right. There's nuance, It's about like shifting our perspective.
I see. So instead of always avoiding it, maybe there's something we can learn from it.
Yeah, exactly. They even compare loneliness to like an emotional alarm system.
An alarm system.
Yeah, what do you think they mean by that?
An emotional alarm system. Let me think. So like a physical alarm goes off when there's danger?
Uh-huh.
Maybe loneliness is telling us something's off in our lives.
Like what kinds of things?
Well, it could be that maybe we need deeper connections, or, we're not taking care of ourselves emotionally,
I see.
or maybe we're not living the way we really want to.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So instead of just feeling bad about being lonely, we should be asking ourselves, like, hey, what's this loneliness trying to tell me?
Right, so it's a signal,
Exactly.
like a wake-up call.
Yeah. Like, have you ever felt lonely even when you're surrounded by people?
Oh, totally. Like being at a party but still feeling alone?
Yeah. Yeah. And that could be because those relationships, they're not really deep or real.
Like you're going through the motions but not really connecting.
Right?
So maybe that loneliness is telling us to be more picky about who we spend time with.
It could be.
Interesting.
Yeah. The LPots folks talk about how after feeling lonely, we tend to appreciate certain things more.
Like what?
Like people who genuinely care. Good conversations, just being present with others.
Yeah, the real stuff, not just the surface level.
Exactly.
So loneliness can help us figure out which relationships really matter,
It's like it shows us what's important.
like a filter or something.
Yeah, I like that. A filter.
It helps us get rid of the fake stuff and keep the real.
Right.
And they also talk about how loneliness can actually make us stronger emotionally.
Stronger. How so?
Well, they call it building emotional resilience.
Emotional resilience.
Yeah. Like when we're alone and have to deal with those feelings,
Yeah.
we learn to cope, to handle things on our own.
So we build up like inner strength.
Right.
That's interesting. But isn't there a risk of, becoming too isolated?
That's a good point.
Like if we're always alone,
Yeah.
could that be a problem?
They talk about that too. It's about finding the balance,
Right.
using that alone time to recharge and reflect.
So it's about being intentional with our solitude,
Yeah, exactly. Not just shutting ourselves off from the world.
but like using that time to connect with ourselves.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this could be beneficial.
Yeah, and they take it even further.
Yeah.
They argue that loneliness itself isn't bad. It's actually an opportunity for growth.
Wow, so they're really reframing the whole concept of loneliness.
They are. It's pretty radical, actually.
It is.
Instead of just enduring it, we can embrace it as a chance to learn and evolve.
Embrace loneliness. I like that.
Yeah, a pretty powerful idea, right?
It is. I'm curious to hear more about this reframing.
Yeah, so to help with this whole reframing thing they offer, 3 questions we can ask ourselves.
3 questions.
Yeah.
Okay, hit me.
All right, so first, what is this loneliness trying to teach me?
Okay, yeah, I like that.
Then there's, how can I use this time to grow?
Grow as a person.
Right.
I like that one too. And the last one is, am I truly lonely or just, uncomfortable being alone? Ooh, that's an interesting one. Makes you think.
Yeah.
Like,
Maybe sometimes we just don't want to be alone with our own thoughts,
totally. Can be kind of scary sometimes.
But what if those quiet moments are, where the good stuff happens, insights and stuff?
That's an interesting thought. I've heard that a lot of creative people, artists and writers, they thrive in solitude.
Right. They actually
Hmm.
talk about that in the LPots episode.
Really?
Yeah, some of the most creative people in history, they were known for spending a lot of time alone.
Interesting. Why do you think that is? Is there something about being alone that sparks creativity?
I think so, yeah. Like when you're not constantly bombarded with, distractions.
Noise, emails, social media, all that stuff.
Yeah.
You have more space to think.
Right. It's like clearing out the clutter in your mind to make room for new ideas.
So it's not just about getting rid of distractions. It's about creating that mental space for like aha moments, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's about giving yourself permission to like really think deeply about things.
Exactly. And that deep thinking can lead to, breakthroughs. And not just in creative stuff, but in life in general.
Like solving problems, making decisions, stuff like that.
Yeah, even just understanding yourself better.
Okay, so we've talked about loneliness as a signal for change, a way to build resilience, and a potential catalyst for creativity.
Right.
But let's get practical here. What does this all mean for, our listeners? How can they actually use this stuff in their own lives?
Well, I think step one is just being more aware of how we relate to loneliness.
Like noticing when we feel it and what triggers it.
Yeah, yeah. And instead of seeing it as a bad thing, trying to see it as like a potential learning experience.
So the next time we feel lonely, instead of running away from it, maybe we should try to like lean into it a little bit.
Exactly. Like ask yourself, what am I supposed to be learning here?
Then we can actually do something about it, right?
Yeah.
Make some changes.
Right. Maybe it means, taking better care of yourself, setting some boundaries, or finding some new hobbies that you actually enjoy.
Or maybe it's just a sign that you need some time alone,
Yeah.
to recharge and reconnect with yourself.
Yeah, sometimes that's all it takes.
Get out in nature, read a book, just be quiet for a while.
And remember, there's no one-size-fits-all approach here.
Right, everyone's different.
Exactly. So just try different things and see what works for you.
Find what helps you manage those feelings in a healthy way.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to ask for help if you need it.
Yeah, good point. Talking to someone can make a big difference.
It can, whether it's a therapist, a friend, or even a support group.
And it helps to know you're not alone,
Right. I used to hate being alone.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I always felt like I had to, be around people to be happy.
Interesting.
But I've come to realize that that alone time is actually really important for me.
It is.
Yeah. It's when I can recharge and just be myself,
Yeah, I get that.
So it's all about changing your perspective.
Seeing loneliness as an opportunity instead of a problem.
Exactly.
Powerful stuff.
It is.
Okay, so we've talked about the individual experience of loneliness, but I'm also thinking about the bigger picture,
The societal aspect.
Yeah. There's a lot of talk about a loneliness epidemic these days.
Right, right.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's definitely a real issue.
I mean, it seems like we're more connected than ever with technology and all,
Yeah.
but we're also more isolated in a lot of ways.
I think so, yeah. Like, social media can be great for, staying in touch,
Yeah,
but it can also make us feel more lonely sometimes.
totally. Like we're comparing ourselves to everyone else's perfect lives.
Right.
And then there's the whole breakdown of community thing,
Yeah, people are moving around more, working longer hours.
It's harder to build those close connections.
It is.
So what can we do about it?
Well, I think it's got to be a multi-pronged approach. Like on an individual level, we can, work on reframing our own relationship with loneliness.
Like we've been talking about.
Exactly. But we also need to address the systemic issues.
Yeah, like creating more opportunities for people to connect.
Right, building stronger communities where people feel supported.
They feel like they belong.
Exactly. And that takes effort from everyone,
It does. Leaders, organizations, individuals, we all have a role to play.
Right. So, yeah, it's a big issue, but I think there's hope.
I agree. All right, so as we wrap up our deep dive into the LPot Podcast's view on loneliness,
Yeah.
I want to circle back to our listeners. What are some key takeaways they can apply to their own lives? So I think the biggest thing we've learned is that loneliness is way more complicated than we think.
Yeah, it's not just about, like, being alone.
It's about something deeper,
It's like a signal that something needs to change.
Exactly. It's like a compass or something.
Oh, I like that.
It's pointing us toward, like, a better life.
Yeah, it's not the enemy.
It's more like a guide.
Yeah. If we listen to it, it can actually help us.
Become more self-aware, have better relationships, even be more creative.
Exactly. That's where those 3 questions come in, right?
From the LPot community.
Yeah.
What were they again?
What is this loneliness trying to teach me?
Right.
How can I use this time to grow? Am I truly lonely or just uncomfortable being alone?
Right, right.
Those are good ones. They can really help us understand, like, what's going on beneath the surface.
So instead of just trying to make the feeling go away.
We should, like, sit with it for a while.
Explore it.
See what we can learn from it.
And it's okay to ask for help if you need it, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Talk to a therapist, a friend, or join a support group.
Yeah, you don't have to go through it alone.
And remember that whole idea of reframing loneliness.
Yeah, seeing it as an opportunity instead of a problem.
Right. Challenge those negative thoughts about being alone.
It's not a weakness.
It's a chance to grow and discover new things about yourself.
And we can't forget about the bigger picture, you know?
Societal factors.
Yeah, we need to create a world where people feel more connected.
Where they feel like they belong.
More support, more compassion.
Yeah, exactly. And that starts with each of us, you know?
Even small acts of kindness can make a difference.
Like reaching out to someone who seems isolated.
Just being there for someone.
It can really make a difference.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into loneliness,
Yeah.
I want our listeners to feel hopeful.
Hopeful.
Yeah, loneliness is normal. It's part of being human.
But it doesn't have to control us.
We have the power to choose how we respond to it.
And if we approach it with, curiosity and courage,
We might actually find that it leads to something good.
growth, creativity, deeper connections, who knows?
Maybe a little bit of loneliness is exactly what you need to shake things up a bit.
Yeah, spark something new.
So next time you're feeling lonely, remember what we talked about.
Embrace the quiet, listen to your heart, and see where it takes you.
We'd love to hear your thoughts on all this.
Yeah, have you ever experienced the good side of loneliness?
Head over to our website or social media and share your story.
You might just inspire someone else.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.